Hello and welcome to GameSack. I thought it'd be fun to do a year-end video basically talking about all the games I've been playing throughout the year. I got this idea from My Life in Gaming and, well, I've got to say that this video has been really fun to put together, even though I'm literally still doing it right this very second. And yes, I do play a lot of games for the show, but, I like to play games on the side for fun too, and that's basically what this episode is going to focus on. Yes, I do like modern games as well as retro games, so if you don't like modern games, maybe this episode isn't for you because I do play a lot of modern games too. That said, let's start looking at the Xbox. I've been playing quite a few games on my Xbox Series X. In fact, I think I may have spent more time this year playing Forza Horizon 4 than anything else, at least on the Xbox. I find these games very relaxing as you can just sit back and drive without a care in the world. Don't get me wrong though, there are plenty of events to participate in. One of my favorite things to do is set a destination point for an event and drive there. And I go straight as I can, screw the roads. I like that I can do things that these cars could never, ever do. There's no way this car could ever go off-road, especially this well. I love it. I do wish things like this were skippable though. I mean, why isn't it? This particular sequence is 2 minutes long and I could not care less about it. People are always talking to you in this game, telling you stuff, and it gets kind of annoying. Fortunately, once they shut the hell up, I can calm down by just driving. This game has changing seasons, and that's what sets this one apart from the rest. It's nice I guess, but I think overall I could probably take or leave that aspect. It should come as no surprise that I picked up Forza Horizon 5 right when it dropped late this year. This is the first one in the series built specifically with the Xbox Series X in mind, or something like that I guess. I'm gonna be honest, it doesn't look much different than Part 4. Maybe if you put them side by side you could tell a bigger difference, but there's certainly nothing amazing here compared to the previous game. Well, I guess Part 5 does have quite a bit more foliage. Yeah, I'm sure it's way better because of the 3 more rays of light that are bouncing off of that tiny fold in front of your car that you only see for like 3 seconds before you begin a race. To me, that's hardly revolutionary. Anyway, you can choose the good graphics mode, but it only runs at 30 frames per second. Or you can choose the 60 frames per second mode, which has crappy graphics. Either way, you need to compromise, and either way, you're missing out. Welcome to modern gaming. Seriously though, the 60 frames per second mode doesn't look much worse in the graphics fidelity than the 30 frames per second mode. You might get fewer rays of light bouncing off of that tiny fold in the front of your car, or maybe 1 or 2 fewer passes of anti-aliasing, but really it looks great either way. Speaking of the visuals, you'll see kind of a draw-in and texture changes that look kind of odd not too far off in the distance no matter which mode you choose. I guess having all that extra foliage comes with some drawbacks. I am just nitpicking though. I really do love how this game looks. As a game, it's definitely more of the same, and I never really cared about the whole music festival vibe that they've got going on. I just want to drive around and race. And they still insist on talking to you quite a bit. The designers must think that we absolutely love this. Still, it's a great game to chill with, and I guess that's why I keep playing them. I did have a few issues with it being buggy and crashing early on, but I think they finally fixed those issues.
Hey Home Slice, hearing your name a lot lately. Whatever you've been doing, keep at it. We've got big plans ahead. Hey Home Slice, that is a Horizon Mexico Festival outpost. Shall we build some more?
This year, I was also playing some Ori Will of the Wisps, which is the second game in that series. I loved the first, and I have it on Xbox, so I got this one on Xbox as well. In fact, when I booted it up just now, it remembered exactly where I left off despite it being months since I've played it. And I'm getting my ass handed to me. I might be able to do without this feature. I love the art in this game, even though it seems mostly kinda dark. I don't really remember exactly what I was doing when I left off. I tried the 120 frames per second mode, and it was cool I guess, but the 60 frames per second mode here is perfectly fine. If you can't use the 120 frames per second mode, seriously, don't worry about it. You're good. I'd like to continue this one to see more of it, and I just hope I can remember what I need to do from here. Finally, I bought Microsoft Flight Simulator, which now thinks it's Game of the Year, I guess. Maybe your Game of the Year, Microsoft, not mine. Anyway, this kind of game appeals to me because, once again, I can just relax as I play it, and I really like that. You can take off from tons of different airports all over the world and fly through real-time weather effects. It's actually pretty awesome. Or you can change the time to be whatever you want. I think you can change the weather too. I recorded this at night and I wanted to be able to see what I'm flying around. On the surface, this is pretty dry and boring if you play it how it wants you to play it. It wants you to be a serious pilot, no fun allowed. But F the police, I'll do what I want. Of course, it usually ends up with me doing something like this. I do wish it had some actual crash physics. The plane looks like it's made out of very light plastic with nothing inside. This is a PC game first and foremost, and the GUI definitely represents that. On console, it only works with the Xbox Series X, I believe, so it's nice to have a game that actually needs the power of the brand new console that I purchased. Well, brand new as of last year anyway. It's probably the closest thing the Xbox Series X has to an exclusive. If I'm wrong, let me know, please. I've wasted a lot of time with this one flying around and accomplishing absolutely nothing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Okay, let's shift to retro for a bit. Well, to the Genesis anyway. Actually, two of these games are pretty new. After that, we'll take a look at the PlayStation 4. Let's look at a few Genesis games. Earlier in the year, I was still playing Paprium, which was a brand new beat-em-up released for the console. It's a good game, and I have a dedicated video on it if you want to know more. At the time I'm making this video, Watermelon was doing a Kickstarter and lots of weird stuff regarding this game. I haven't really paid attention because I already have the game. I might get the Game Gear version though, I don't know. This entire game is eccentric just for the sake of being eccentric. It's also 80 megabits, which was the biggest Genesis game released at the time. Another new game for the Genesis is Demons of Asterborg. This one came out in the middle of this year, I think. Maybe a bit later, I'll have to check. Anyway, it's a cool new action game with a slight hint of exploration. This game is even bigger than Watermelon's Paprium, clocking in at over 112 mega power. You'd never know that it was bigger than Paprium by playing it though. But nonetheless, it does have more memory on this cartridge than Paprium's cartridge. I intend to do a proper review of this one sometime in the future, so I'm not going to go into a ton of depth here, but so far I'll say that it's not bad. Not long ago, I saw Tiny Toon Adventures Buster's Hidden Treasure on Sega Lord X's channel. I realized as I was watching his video that I'd never played this one. The rental stores must have never put this one out for rent, or it was always checked out, who knows. Anyway, I decided to get myself a physical copy. I always liked the Tiny Toons game on the Super Nintendo, and honestly, I think I may like this one a touch more. It is a bit rough around some of the edges due to it being only 4 megabits, but it's really fun. The controls feel weird when you first pick this one up, but you get used to it rather quickly. This is another overlooked Konami game on the Genesis for sure. I'm glad to finally have it in my collection, though I didn't realize I was missing it. I wonder what else I don't know I'm missing. I spent a lot of time on the PlayStation 4 this year. I've been playing a lot of the Panzer Dragoon remake. I haven't been giving it too serious of an effort, but I've mostly been playing it wondering what I would have thought of graphics like these back in the Saturn's day. Sega will trust anyone with their legacy IPs, so I was a bit worried. But it mostly turned out pretty well, I think, though of course it's not perfect. It's marginally better than the Switch version, though I think it should be even better still given how much more powerful the PlayStation 4 is. I'm playing on a PlayStation 5 here, and the load times are much faster than the Switch, though it's still pretty slow considering how blazingly fast the SSD is supposed to be. Optimized, it is not, but every game doesn't have to be the end-all be-all of everything, so yeah, I'm fine with it. I love racing games and I love flat shaded polygons, so it should come as no surprise that I've been playing the hell out of the PlayStation 4 version of Hot Shot Racing. This is one of the very few types of 3D games that are immune to aging poorly in my opinion. It just looks so cool. The good news is that the game is pretty fun to play as well. It's one of those where you need to drift to earn a boost that you can use whenever, but the good news is that drifting is pretty easy to do in most of the cars. There are a lot of tracks here, and I often find it difficult to stop playing, as to me it's kind of addictive. I want more. I'd love to see a next-gen sequel that gets rid of any of the aliasing and runs at 120 frames per second. I think that for a game like this, 120 frames per second would actually be really cool. I'm pretty sure there's enough system resources for all that, with the lack of any texturing as well as just using simple polygons. But hey, I'm not a programmer. I'd also like to see more tracks and even crazier tracks as well. Still, this one is really fun. Another PlayStation 4 driving game I was playing this year is Dangerous Driving. This one's notable because it was made by members of the old Criterion team who made the Burnout games, which I love. This one tries to be more like the linear track-based Burnout games like Parts 3, 4, and Revenge. Visually, it does a great job representing that, and is pretty much what I'd imagine a Burnout game on the PS4 to look like. The gameplay isn't quite there though. I mean, it's not bad at all, and it's still fun, it just kind of feels like the gameplay needs a bit more polish and fine-tuning. I'd absolutely be addicted to a real Burnout game, but this didn't really compel me to play it more than the one time I actually did. Thankfully, I was recording the gameplay when I did. One of the worst things about it is that there's no music at all unless you have a Spotify subscription, which I don't. It makes the game feel so empty. I wish the PlayStation 4 could do custom music tracks in the exact same way the original Xbox could, but no, that feature is too good for us these days, I guess. They're making a sequel to this one, and yeah, I'll probably get it. Hopefully they do a little better on it. This one also came with a downloadable game called Danger Zone 2. I haven't played that one yet, but I guess it's supposed to be fairly decent. Okay, I talked about the Xbox Series X, so how about the PlayStation 5 or the Switch? Yep, I've been playing those, plus something that's even more retro than I usually talk about. Over on the PlayStation 5, I spent a lot of time with Demon's Souls. I loved this game on the PlayStation 3, and when I was making the PS3 episode, I just had to go out and get this one. Fortunately, they didn't change much here besides the audio and visual presentation. That's good, because the gameplay is already awesome. Now it's way more detailed with a much smoother frame rate. I know some people anyway have been bitching about this game not having ray tracing. Who cares? This game already looks fantastic and it's silky smooth. I haven't gotten anywhere nearly as far as I did on the PlayStation 3 though. I beat that version, but not even close here. Honestly, I'll probably never complete this version. Oh well, I still like playing around here. I've also been playing a lot of Ratchet & Clank A Rift Apart off and on as well. I've only gotten through about 20% so far, but it's been outstanding the entire way. I had to stop playing for a few weeks at one point because my PS5 controller actually was giving me trouble and I had to send it into Sony. The right analog stick was screwing up and there wasn't any way I could fix it. And yes, I did look at all the remedies online and I tried them all, but it didn't work. Yes, I even tried the remedy that you would suggest. Guess what? It didn't work. Anyway, I love the visuals here, and they still blow me away, especially with the close-ups. Fortunately, the gameplay is awesome as well, as it tends to be in this series. I love the way the controls feel. The game seems rather linear, but honestly that's fine by me. Although I've got to admit that there's been a few times where I wondered exactly what I need to do next. I always figure it out though. A couple of parts in the game have been pretty open world-like, though it's in a rather limited fashion. This is a game that I'd really like to finish, and I definitely should. I hope I'm able to, but sometimes I'm just too much of a workaholic. Maybe once a few of my projects have been buttoned up after the first quarter of 2022, I can get around to it.
Ratchet! The big one! The big one!
One game I definitely did finish though was Ys 9 Monstrum Nox for the PlayStation 4. I played it on the PS5 though so that it would have a much smoother frame rate. This is a really nice action RPG, and while the graphics may not be up to modern standards, try not to let that turn you away. I enjoyed this one a lot more than I thought I would, and if you want to hear me talk about it in more detail, I have an entire video reviewing the game.
I have detected something.
I know a lot of you, well, at least some of you, have been wondering if I've been neglecting my Nintendo Switch. Nope, in fact I picked up Cruisin' Blast for it and I've been having a blast. That was too easy, but it's true, the game is a blast. Once again, this shouldn't surprise anyone after seeing the other racing games I featured in this episode. Hey, what can I say, it's one of my favorite genres, I make no apologies. And I really like it when racing games are fast and arcadey like this one is. The cruising games always take me a couple of minutes to adapt to for some reason, but once I do, I'm having a grand old time. I really like how crazy these games are, and this one is no exception. The colors are totally wild. I wish the Switch had the capability to do HDR because these colors would look fantastic in HDR, but it's Nintendo. HDR or not, this game is still super fun to play. I love all of these crazy jumps that have you flying super high. Oh, it's gonna hurt so bad when I land! And I'm perfectly fine. I love it. This one has a very rough and unpolished feel about it like most Midway games did, but don't let that detract you. I've also been playing some Girls Garden on the SG-1000. You need to run around and pick flowers for a boy in this ancient game on Sega's first console. Am I working on a video for the SG-1000? Maybe. Oh, and of course I've been playing Dragon Wang too. Who doesn't want to play with a Dragon Wang? Lastly, one game that surprised me is Intrepid Izzy from Senile on the Dreamcast. This is a new game for the console, and I guess it's also on Steam. Based on the name alone, I thought it would be related to that Dizzy Egg thing that's so popular in Europe. Thankfully, that's not the case. Sorry, Europe. On the surface, this is a basic action platformer, but it checks all of the boxes for me so far. I really love exploring everywhere. The control is really smooth. This is another one that I'll give a proper review to in the future. I'm so happy to still see people making games for these old consoles. And there you go, that's most of what I've been playing this year. I mean, there's probably a few more that I've played that I didn't keep track of, but hey, cut me some slack, this is the first time I've done one of these episodes. Anyway, you'll probably notice a lack of big AAA titles. Isn't it kind of refreshing to not hear about those for the trillionth time? Maybe I'll play them next year. Maybe. Anyway, what have you been playing this year? Let me know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSack. What an interesting year it's been to play video games. I mean, I've played Panzer Dragoon, I've also played Panzer Dragoon, and if you can believe it, I've even played Panzer Dragoon. Now, there's just enough time left in the year to play one more game. What should I play? Let's check it out. Maybe Phantasy Star 4 on the Genesis, one of my favorites. It's been a while since I've played it. Or maybe King Colossus on the Mega Drive. It has an English patch. It's another great one, and it's also been a while since I played it. Or maybe Tale of the Sun on the PlayStation. I've been looking for an excuse to play this, but, you know, I've been slacking. But come on, let's get real here. Why would I play any of these when I could play Green Dog on the 16-bit Sega Genesis?